Well, I was sitting here enjoying my losing Monday, not a victory Monday. I was all comfy, thinking about the loss, thinking about how bad this defense played. I got my jacket on, and then I'm scrolling on X, and I see this article about George Pickens, that the Cowboys should trade him. And I immediately forgot about how mad I was about the defense and was instantly mad at this article. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So let's not waste any time and get into it. So I was going to pull the article up on the screen, have you guys read along as I did, but then I realized it's behind a paywall, so me throwing it up there, I'm not getting into all that. I'm not getting copyrighted. Also, we hit 45,000 subscribers, and I wanted to thank you guys for that. I really, really appreciate it. That's awesome. Now let's get to talking about this article, because it ruined my mood after hitting 45,000 subscribers. So I was going to pull the article up on the screen, have you guys read along as I did, but then I realized it's behind a paywall, so me throwing it up there, I'm not getting copyrighted. I'm just going to read off some points that he made and then make my point on why this doesn't make any sense. I don't know why people are writing articles like this when there's a lot to talk about with the defensive side of the ball, and this got some people stirred up. Number one was that the defense stinks and they need more resources spent there. 100%, I agree. They need to spend more resources on the defense. But isn't that why you got rid of Micah Parsons? That way you didn't have to pay one guy defensively $47 million per year. So you automatically opened up $47 million in cap space for a year. Of course, there's weird stuff going on with signing bonuses. I don't really know. Let's just say $47 million straight up. Okay, you didn't just do that. You got 2 first-round picks. You have 2 first-round picks next year, and you have 2 first-round picks in 2027. There's your resources. You have a draft next year. After the compensatory picks, Dallas is likely going to have 8 to 10 total draft picks and 2 first-rounders. They won't have their third, but there's always a potential to trade back. That is your resources. Jerry loves to talk about how he likes cheap players on rookie deals. You're not having to pay Micah Parsons $47 million. You can spend other places, and maybe you do sign George Pickens for $30 million. Well, now you have 17 more on the cap to go get those middle-level players that Jerry loves to pay, or go get a $15 million linebacker, $15 million interior defender, or an edge rusher, or literally anything. Dallas hasn't spent $15 million on an outside free agent in a decade and a half. I actually don't think they ever have. Dante Fowler was like $8 million, and that was the highest in a decade. If you're not going to keep Pickens and still trade away Micah, I don't get the point with that. You literally traded him away. This is what Jerry said. You traded him away so you could get more people, because paying one guy is just too much. It doesn't really make sense. I understand the defense needs resources, but you also have the resources to make that happen now. His second point was that Pickens is going to make too much money, which is probably going to be north of $30 million. And yes, he is going to make north of $30 million. You know why? Because he's really, really good. He's a number 1 wide receiver. A team's going to pay him as such. They're going to make him their number 1 wide receiver. But you also look around the league, the Vikings and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, they're probably going to pay Jordan Addison. Maybe not to that level. You look at the Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They're in that upper echelon of how much wide receivers are making. The Bengals, which T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But if you look at the Eagles, they have 2 really good receivers, and their defense is still really good. Just because you have to pay 2 receivers north of $30 million doesn't mean you're automatically just screwed. Like, you just messed up the cap, it's over and done with. It might be messed up in 5 years when you start pushing that money down the road, but you're going to be messed up anyway because Dak Prescott's not going to be here. CeeDee Lamb might not be here. Then George Pickens wouldn't be here. Like, when is the Super Bowl window if you're just going to keep doing this thing where it's, we can't let this guy ruin the cap, so you let him walk, or we can't let this guy do... It doesn't make any sense. Are we going to open up the Super Bowl window or not? In my opinion, signing Pickens opens your Super Bowl window. He makes another point that Dallas could recoup their 3rd round pick that they gave up, which is probably the most laughable point of all of this. You have a guy that's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb is up there too, like in the top 5. Pickens is in the top 10 conversation for me. Might be a little bit biased, but it's not ridiculous to say that he's a top 10 NFL wide receiver. And when he's cooking, he might be a top 3 NFL wide receiver. The idea of giving him up just to recoup your 3rd round pick is insane. That is the craziest thing that I've ever heard. When is the last time that Dallas hit on a 3rd round pick? DeMarvion Overshown, and no hate to him. I love Overshown. He's been injured for the past couple of years. I can't even tell you a 3rd round pick that Dallas has hit on in the past 5 to 10 years because they typically don't make that much of a difference. So you're going to give Pickens up for Maris Leafau. You're going to trade him away for half a year. I would rather him rot away in Dallas and them not winning games than give him away for a 3rd round pick. Really quick, guys, before we get to the final point of this article, I wanted to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Sleeper. Week 9 of the NFL season is here, and my picks for this week's upcoming games, I have Ladd McConkey more than half an anytime touchdown. They're playing the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers are going to move the ball really well, so it only makes sense that McConkey gets his touchdown. The Chargers defense is also very good. That's why I have Joey Sly with less than 1.5 field goals made. I don't think the Titans are going to be able to move the ball down the field enough to kick field goals. That one's up to you guys. I know 1.5 seems low. It's tough to get in field goal range with the Chargers defense and a bad offense like the Titans. And then finally, Javonte Williams, more than half an anytime touchdown. That's been money in the bank this year. I am putting $5 on this, and I get all 3 correct. It will pay out $25. So if you guys want to get in on the action, you can use code DoubleMove and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Sleeper is the sponsor of the channel all season long. Thank you to them. Now, let's get back into the video. And then he says his 4th point is that Dallas isn't making the playoffs, and that makes all of this reasonable. Trading away a guy because you're not going to make the playoffs, you really got to rebuild on the defensive side of the ball, and they're just not good enough. They're going to have to win 7 of their next 9 games. How they're playing football is not the way that they're going to win, and maybe that's true. How they're playing right now with the defense being as bad as they are and still having 2 elite wide receivers, the race to score 40 points every single week is very, very exhausting. I 100% agree with that. I also agree that Dallas probably isn't making the playoffs based on what it looks like right now. Before the trade deadline, November 4th, and how they're playing defensively with Matt Eberflus, I would say they don't make the playoffs because they're hovering around that 8-1, 7-9-1. So trading away Pickens because you're just not a good team, you're not going to make the playoffs, and getting what you can for him seems like the best idea. That's his words, not mine. My overall thoughts on this, and I've heard it echoed, it's not just this guy, that's why I'm not putting his name out there. If you want to go find it on Dallas Morning News, you can. I'm not going to put his name out there because he's not the only person that's talked about this. At this point in the season, Dallas knows if they're going to be willing to pay Pickens or not because he's going to make $30+ million. If Jerry and Steven are sitting up there like, man, it stinks that we're not going to be able to keep him around, then yes, go ahead and trade him and get whatever draft capital you can. I 100% agree. I just think that's a bad strategy. You do not trade away or let guys walk that are good NFL football players. You don't trade them away, much like the Micah Parsons deal. And in hindsight, that one kind of makes sense if you can hit on these draft picks, but it doesn't make sense if you trade Micah and then trade Pickens. Like, how many draft picks can you possibly have that are going to make that much of a difference? It's not like Dallas has been a good drafting team in the past 5 years. I was on Twitter today, and Marcus Mosher shared the 10 defensive players that Dallas has selected with their top 100 picks from 2021 to 2024. And I want you guys to listen to these names. 2021, Nashawn Wright in the 3rd round, Chauncey Golston in the 3rd round, Osa Odigizua in the 3rd round, Kelvin Joseph, Micah Parsons, which was a hit. That was more so dumb luck. They didn't even know he could rush the passer, I don't think. They were going to use him as an off-ball linebacker. They kind of struck gold with that one. Sam Williams. Is Pickens worth Sam Williams? Like what? DeMarvion Overshown. Love Overshown. He's been injured. Mozzie Smith. Maris Leafau. Marshawn Nealon. At some point, you have to admit, we are not a good drafting team, so we have to do it other ways, whether that's through free agency or making trades. They won the Pickens trade. No one would say that the Steelers won that deal. The idea of Pickens going for a 3rd round pick right now with how he's playing in Dallas doesn't make the Steelers look good. Do we think it's going to make the Cowboys look good when they make their selection in the 3rd round because you recouped your pick back for him, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have George Pickens. I've made numerous videos, I've talked in podcasts about this. I think that signing Pickens is actually the way to opening up the Super Bowl window once again, because from now on, you get Pickens, you have Lamb, you have Dak for the next 3 to 4 years. That's your offense. You're going to roll with that. Same thing with Jake Ferguson, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton. Those guys are going to be here for the next 3 to 4 years for sure. You have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years. What they can do is either select 4 out of 4 defensive players, most likely in the middle to back into the first round, or move those picks for proven veteran guys that make a difference, like a Max Crosby or a Trey Hendrickson, although I wouldn't move a 1. There's probably some names out there that would be enticing to give up that 1. Jeffrey Simmons. Zach from the future here. I know this part might be a little bit confusing. People might misconstrue it, because I know people are going to say, well, you're telling them to pay Pickens and then bet on fixing the defense through the draft, although they've been bad at drafting defensive players over the past half decade. And yes, I am, because they're going to have to do that anyway. At the end of the day, you have to draft well. You gave up Micah for 2 first-round picks. You have to hit on those 2 first-round picks. So paying Pickens keeps your offense elite, and then you don't have to worry about filling that wide receiver 2 spot in the draft, and you can solely focus your 3 top 50 picks on the defensive side of the ball. Why not pay him and open another big hole on your roster that you traded for Pickens to fill because it was such an issue? Getting 3rd-round pick back changes absolutely nothing. Really, getting a 2nd-round pick. Now, you might can make an argument when you get to 1st round, but getting a 3rd round back means absolutely nothing. From 2018 to 2022, 3rd-rounders had a hit rate of 20%, meaning 12 out of 60 were considered good players and made a legitimate impact. Let's not sit here and act like this front office is going to go pay a $30 million defender that's going to make a big difference if they let Pickens walk. They're going to sign 6 $5 million guys that are all going to play like Kenneth Murray. All right, sorry I had to add that, and I took a shot at Kenneth Murray. You can rebuild the defense through either the draft or your draft picks, moving guys, and then actually doing something in free agency, hunkering down, moving some money around, making void years, because once Dak's gone, I know people like to hate on him. Once he's gone, this team is going to be a dumpster fire for at least 2 to 5 years, hopefully 2 years, but I don't think people realize it's not going to be good when you lose your franchise quarterback. So the next 3 to 4, it needs to be the Super Bowl window. You have to go in, put everything on a credit card, and try to win a Super Bowl. And that's what Pickens does for you. So I just wanted to get on here today, talk about that. Hopefully I can get this video posted tonight. If not, you might be watching this in the morning. I don't know. You got whenever you watch YouTube. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for 45,000 subscribers. By the way, if you could, please hit that subscribe button. It would mean a ton. We're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. I love you all. These people are making me mad with this stuff. Give Pickens $100 million a year. All right. I love you all.